All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back live with another podcast with yours truly, the Algo Capitalist, aka the Vulcan, coming to you live from PulseWaveTrading.com, home of the world famous PulseWave Price Trigger Reports. It's been a few weeks since we've done a podcast, and that's because I've been busy in the lab. Very, very busy in the lab. There's been a lot of geopolitical and economic events and situations that have arisen, and I've had to take my time to digest all of the information. And I've been following the scenarios that have been coming upon the radar. And now it seems that some of the issues and topics that I initially discussed many, many years ago with the late, great Charlie McGrath on the Wide Awake News show have come to pass. One of the biggest events that was spoken about going all the way back to, I think, 2013 or prior to that. And we discussed the idea that the worse the US economy got, the higher the Dow Jones Industrial Average would climb. And since 2013, we've seen just that. We've also seen a lot of weird things happening. And they started off quiet enough, just under the radar, not many outlets, covering it or discussing it in any kind of way. And those that did so in limited quantities, like they may just gloss over the topic and then quickly move on to something else. What am I talking about? I'm talking about these explosions and massive fires at dairy factories, meat processing plants, food processing plants, viruses taking out pigs and cows and chickens, just total carnage to the global food supply. And something else that must be noted is that as soon as Putin invaded, you notice that the first thing people really discussed and talked about was how Ukraine is like responsible for a majority of Europe's wheat production. So, in a sense, the attack was really not an attack against the people per se, as far as taking back the land to Russia, but more so and indirectly so as a consequence of doing so. It marked the beginning of the attack on the global food supply. Yeah, it's a bad thing when a nation invades another nation. That's bad enough, but it's what the region signified, which is more important, which is food production. Food production. And I think the invasion part overshadowed that part, that this is nothing more than an attack, a symbolic attack on the global food supply. And that's what we've been seeing. That was the first stage of an attack on the global food supply. So then that was followed by all these food processing plant fires and explosions, one after another. And it seemed that it was limited to just the United States, but then we started hearing of these issues abroad. So it's been an attack against everybody. Wherever a major food source is located, that's where you saw an attack against the food supply. And I'm surprised that the mainstream media is not covering this more thoroughly. If this was over any other time in human history, it would have been on a 24-hour rotation. That's all they would have talked about. And there would have been investigations and hearings on Capitol Hill, and people having to testify before Congress, and there would be all types of probes, and then you would have the justice system coming into play, and there would be all types of things discussed and investigations. But we haven't seen any of that. And you have to ask yourself a question, which is, why is that? Why hasn't there been anybody anywhere investigating this and having the mainstream media to cover it? We have not seen that. And it's just beyond suspicious. It's more than that. It's more than that. So you have to really ask yourself, what's going on? What is going on? And answers are not forthcoming. Instead, they're having you to focus on nonsensical issues. There's been a lot of celebrity gossip and celebrity news for you to digest so that you don't have to pay attention to the economic news. And when they are discussing the economy, they're quick to say, and this is always the lead in to the discussion, which is, we're not in a recession. And then they say, we're not going into a recession. And then they want to talk about the employment situation. And they're saying how strong the employment situation is. When the truth of the matter is, that is another lie that's being told. Gainful employment practically is non-existent anymore. Sure, there are millions of dead-end minimum wage jobs. Yeah, without benefits, absolutely. But gainful employment, gone are the days where a blue-collar worker could afford to have a family and buy a house and do all that with just his job alone. Gone are those days. Gone are the days where you could go and work for a company for 20, 30 years and retire with a pension. Those days, too, are long gone. You're seeing the total obliteration of the global economy, which really kicked into high gear when they shut down the global economy 3 years ago. And they did so under the threat of violence. In certain jurisdictions, if you did not heed the warnings, then you were threatened with arrest. All right. So we had to deal with that. The nations had to go through that. And what came out on the other side is where we are today. They have not taken any responsibility for what they've done. It's just swept under the rug and dismissed. Or they just claim incompetence. Well, we're incompetent. We're dumb. No one saw this coming. No one saw that coming. And then they even go further and double down, and they blame a virus for human decisions. Since when was any outside influence responsible for the decisions and choices that an individual makes? You make decisions and choices based on what you decide you want to do and how you want to handle things. You don't get to blame the circumstance. The circumstance did not make the decision. You did. You made the decision based on the circumstance. And we don't have men and women anymore today that are accountable. that will stand up and say, yeah, I messed up. We made the wrong call. No one does that. As a matter of fact, every time someone screws up, they get promoted. So, what message are we sending? We're sending that as long as you play ball and do as you're told and stick to the narrative, you can go places. Your career will take off. But the moment you become a whistleblower or stand up against the wrongs, then you're ostracized and demonetized and sometimes taken out physically. That's the world we live in right now. So it's beyond incompetence. I believe that everything we have seen and has experienced has been deliberate. They're doing it on purpose. This is what they want to do. They want to bring down the U.S. any means necessary. If you recall, 3 years ago, Frank and I did a show and we told you that there was inside information that came from a high ranking government official at the time who said that within 2 to 3 years there was going to be a major banking crisis in America and that the banks in America would fail and there was going to be economic collapse. That's what that would lead to. And that was 3 years ago. And here we are to the second. What do we see happening in 2023? Banking crisis. And they said, it's not a problem. We fixed it. We guaranteed all the people from the first bank that collapsed. No problem. Even though FDIC only covers 250,000, we're just gonna make everyone whole. Even the criminals, we're gonna make them whole too, and we're not gonna hold anybody accountable. We're just gonna go ahead and just take care of it. And don't worry, the taxpayers don't have to pay any of it. It's all coming from the Department of Treasury and the Federal Reserve, the central banks. We're going to take care of this. But you got to ask yourself a question: where are they getting the money from? Where's the money coming from? I remember growing up, there was a saying. We heard this all the time: money doesn't grow on trees. We were always told that growing up. Money does not grow on trees. So you have to budget your money and spend wisely and all that good stuff. Save for a rainy day. That's all we heard. Because as kids, the first thing you want to do when you get a piece of change is run to the corner store real quick and buy candy, potato chips, bubble gum, and sodas. And or if you have anything left over, spend it on the arcades. That was the lifestyle of a child in those days. Arcades, candy, gum, potato chips, and sodas. That's what we lived for. Every piece of change we got, that's where it went. Went to the corner store. And we were told, don't let money burn a hole in your pocket. Learn to save some of that. But, in the summertime, we wasn't saving nothing. Ice cream truck would roll up. We'd get the bomb pops and the atomic fireballs, all that stuff. Squirrel nuts, bitter honeys, all that stuff, man. That's what we did. Now laters, Mike and Ike's, lemon heads, Alexander the grapes, Chico sticks, the dipping sticks, all that stuff. And remember the candy cigarettes that when you take it out the pack, if you blow it, it would blow smoke. And it was like bubble gum in the middle. I know I'm taking y'all way back with that one. And then there were these gumballs that came in a long pack. And you get several balls, different colors. We chew those up. And then later on came the big red, big league chew. Remember the big league chew gum? And it was supposed to mimic dipping snuff. So that was like the big thing, big league chew. Yeah, man. And then remember Hubba Bubba Bubba Gum? Yeah, man. That's what we did as kids. So we really wasn't saving any money, especially in the summertime. It's hot. You're at the swimming pool, you're at the playground, you're just doing things that kids do. You're not trying to save money, you're having a good time. And that's what America has been doing. It's been having a good time. It's been a long, long summer. And America has basked in the sunlight of prosperity that it's known for decades, while other countries struggled. But now winter is coming, and the sun is going down on America's dominance. It's losing the world reserve currency status, and its economy is collapsing. And at the same time that this is happening, we're experiencing societal collapse. It's a lot of collapse going on for one country. And if that isn't enough, Texas announces that it may launch its own gold-backed digital currency. That's right. You heard me correctly. I did not stutter. A gold-backed digital currency. Texan senators introduced a bill that will require the state comptroller to establish a digital currency that is fully backed by gold. The state of Texas would hold gold backing the currency in trust on behalf of the digital currency holders. A gold backed digital currency will create an alternative and allow individuals and businesses to avoid central bank digital currencies. Because, as you know, the central banks are planning their own digital currencies using blockchain technology, something I warned you about back in 2016. I was told I was crazy. I warned you that large institutional money, sovereign wealth funds, hedge funds, that they were coming for the crypto markets. They were going to start operating in the crypto markets, and they were going to co-opt and take over and create their own blockchains. I made 2 documentaries here on YouTube, very long documentaries. I went into painstaking detail of exactly how they were going to do it. And I was laughed at, I was mocked, I was ridiculed. And now here we are, several years later, and it has come to pass. If you have not had the opportunity to view those documentaries, just go to our YouTube channel here, PulseWave Trading, and you'll see the 2 documentaries. I highly suggest you watch it. You'll see just how prophetic those documentaries have been. Now, this bill introduced in Texas House and Senate would create a state-issued gold-backed digital currency. Enactment of this legislation would create an option for people to transact business in sound money, emphasis on sound money. It would also set the stage to undermine the Federal Reserve's monopoly on money and create a viable alternative to a central bank digital currency known as a CBDC. Now, Senator Brian Hughes, Republican, introduced Senate Bill 2334 or SB 2334 on March the 10th. Republican Mark DeRazio introduced a companion bill, 4903 or HB 4903, on the same day. The legislation will require the state comptroller to establish a digital currency that is fully backed by gold and fully redeemable in cash or gold as well. The comptroller would also be required to create a mechanism to use this gold-backed digital currency in everyday transactions. In establishing the digital currency, the comptroller shall establish a means to ensure that a person who holds the digital currency may readily transfer or assign the digital currency to any other person by electronic means. Now, the state of Texas would hold gold back in the currency in trust on behalf of the digital currency holders. The trustee shall maintain enough gold to provide for the redemption in gold of all units of the digital currency that have been issued and are not yet redeemed for money or gold. In practice, individuals will be able to purchase a digital currency from the state. The state would then use the money to purchase gold that would be held in the Texas Bullion Depository or another secure vault. Individuals will be able to redeem their digital currency for dollars or gold. Now, a gold backed digital currency will create an alternative and allow individuals and businesses to avoid the CBDCs altogether. Digital currencies exist as virtual banknotes or coins held in a digital wallet on your computer or smartphone. The difference between a central bank government digital currency and peer to peer electronic cash, such as Bitcoin, is that the value of the CBDC is backed and controlled by the government, just like traditional fiat currency. Now, at the root of the move toward a CBDC is the war on cash. The elimination of cash creates the potential for the government to track and even control consumer spending. We talked about that too, going all the way back to 2013. Nigeria is already trying to get people to accept its CBDC with a great deal of resistance. And China, India, and the US have all launched pilot programs to test CBDCs. Once again, China, India, and the United States of America. Imagine if there were no cash. It would be impossible to hide even the smallest transaction from the government's eyes. Something as simple as your morning trip to Starbucks wouldn't be a secret from government officials. As Bloomberg put it in an article published when China launched the digital yuan pilot program in 2020, digital currency offers China's authorities a degree of control never possible with physical money. The government could even turn off an individual's ability to make purchases. Economist Thornton Pollett outlined the potential for big brother like government control with the advent of a digital euro in an article published by the Miser's Wire. As he put it, the path to becoming a surveillance state regime will accelerate considerably if and when a digital currency is issued. A gold backed digital currency will create an alternative to CBDCs. Now, the impact of this would be the creation of a state issued gold backed digital currency, which will create currency competition with Federal Reserve notes and undermine the Fed's monopoly on money. It would also provide an alternative if the Federal Reserve implements a central bank digital currency. Now, broadly speaking, by making gold conveniently available for regular daily transactions by the general public, gold backed digital currency would create the potential for a wide reaching effect. Professor William Green, an expert on constitutional tender, said in a paper for the Mises Institute that when people in multiple states actually started using gold instead of Federal Reserve notes, it would effectively nullify the Federal Reserve and end the federal government's monopoly on money. Over time, as residents of the state use both Federal Reserve notes and silver and gold coins, the fact that the coins hold their value more than Federal Reserve notes do and will lead to a reverse Gresham's law effect where good money, gold and silver coins, will drive out bad money, Federal Reserve notes. As this happens, a cascade of events can begin to occur, including the flow of real wealth toward the state's treasury and influx of banking business from outside of the state as people in other states carry out their desire to bank with sound money, and an eventual outcry against the use of Federal Reserve notes for any transactions. Gresham's law holds that bad money drives out good. For example, when the US government replaced silver quarters and dimes with coins made primarily of less valuable copper, the cheap coins drove the silver out of circulation. People hoarded the more valuable silver coins and spent the less valuable copper money. So, how do you reverse Gresham? The key is in making it easier to use gold in everyday transactions. The reason bad money drives out good is that governments put up barriers to using sound money in day-to-day life. That makes it more costly to spend gold and incentivizes hoarding. When you remove barriers, you level the playing field and allow gold and silver to compete head to head with Federal Reserve notes. Now, on an even playing field, gold beats fiat money every time. The United States Constitution states in Article 1, Section 10, no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. Currently, all debts and taxes in Kansas are either paid with Federal Reserve notes, which are dollars, which were authorized as legal tender by Congress, or with coins issued by the U.S. Treasury, very few of which have gold or silver in them. The Federal Reserve destroys this constitutional monetary system by creating a monopoly based on its fiat currency. Without the backing of gold or silver, the central bank can easily create money out of thin air. This not only devalues your purchasing power over time, it also allows the federal government to borrow and spend far beyond what would be possible in a sound money system. Without the Fed, the US government wouldn't be able to maintain all of its unconstitutional wars and programs. The Federal Reserve is the engine that drives the most powerful government in the history of the world. Creating a gold backed digital currency would take another step in the process of abolishing the Federal Reserve System by attacking it from the bottom up, pulling the rug out from under it by working to make its functions irrelevant at the state and local levels, and setting the stage to undermine the Federal Reserve monopoly by introducing competition into the monetary system. So, what's next? Well, at the time of this podcast, SB 2334 and HB 4903 had not been assigned to committees. Once they get committee assignments, they must get a hearing and pass by a majority vote before moving forward in the legislative process. Oh boy, I have to say, this doesn't surprise me. What do you expect? People are going to fight back, man. They're going to fight back. But wait, it gets better because now the central banks double down on their gold buying. Central banks led by China continue to buy gold with 11 straight months of net purchases. Now, emerging market banks are comparatively underallocated to gold, and the trend of buying gold is expected to continue. Turkey has been battling inflation, and its central bank has been the biggest gold buyer for 15 straight months. Now, you have to ask the question, why is that? Well, you figure since they know that competitors and people that are trying to buck the system are wanting to come up with their own gold back money. They figure if they own all the gold and buy up all the gold, then they still get to be in control. You see what I'm saying? So this is just their way of fighting back against those that are fighting the Fed. I have to tell you, man, there's been no slowdown in central bank gold buying either. That's what's helping the price of gold to continue to climb as well. Again, supply demand. So just something to think about, with all the hype and all the noise out there, with all the distractions. You got to peel back the onion, so to speak, and see what's really there. And behind all of this, as you know, it comes down to control. And those that are in power are doing whatever they can to remain in power. All right. That's what this is all about. So remember that. Remember what's going on here. All right. They're trying to bring down the U.S., do away with the Constitution, and set a new world order. And the U.S. is the last thing that's in the way of that happening. All right. So just wanted to put that out there for you guys. Just something to think about as we're going forward. And make no mistake, they do plan to pull the rug on the stock market. They're just sucking in as many people as they can. And then once they're finished, they're going to pull the rug. And you're going to see all the things I've been trying to warn you about. You're going to see what happens when you don't listen. So stay short. All right. And if you're not already, prepare to get short, because these markets are going to roll over fast and furious, and it's going to blow people's mind. There may or may not be an event or a catalyst, and I believe it's just going to happen organically, and people are not going to see it coming, because right now they're thinking everything is good. Oh, the market's up 200 points. Oh, yeah. They're trying to lure you into a false sense of confidence, thinking that the market will never go down. But a lot of these individual securities are in bear markets. So what you're seeing is a bear market rally. Nothing more. All right, so be encouraged. All right, be encouraged. And remember that stay the course and you'll be okay. Just go in things with your eyes wide open, knowing what's going on. You don't want to be caught flat-footed, caught asleep. So stay alert. And remember, the system works if you work the system. Smash the like button. And until next time, peace out.